When you're 18 or 19 years old, when somebody tells you you can't do something, well, that's it, isn't it? You just want to do it even more. In 1975, we started to talk about having a pro tour. A gentleman by the name of Johnny Jones attempted to get a group of players to turn professional. In those days, it wasn't really looked upon very fondly for women to play golf for money. So to cut a long story short, it all fell through. He then gave three of us an opportunity to go to America and try for our American LPGA cards. I went to the qualifying school in Toledo, Ohio, and really didn't know too much about the world of professional golf. And I played my first ever round as a pro in the qualifying school with Nancy Lopez. So that was a big shock for me. I really discovered the meaning of inadequate, because she was this wonderful player who just tied for the US Open, and I was a very lowly green new pro. But I went on to play in a mini tour, and eventually I got my US LPGA card, which was just fantastic. It was a big adventure. And then while we were all there playing, Carlsberg came up with 12 tournaments, which really gave everybody a reason to take that, what was a giant leap at that time. So in 1979, we played our first Carlsberg European Open event at Tyrrell's Wood. The work with Carlsberg was carried out by Liz Kahn, Vivian Saunders and Barry Edwards, who was the then director of the Women's Professional Golf Association. I was in America playing, as were Jenny Lee Smith and Mickey Walker, so we were all absolutely thrilled when we finally got the news that we were actually going to be able to come home and play in some tournaments. We couldn't actually believe that anybody had got it off the ground, and we didn't play for a lot of money in those early days. I think each Carlsberg event was worth £2,000. If you won, you got £200, and then you paid 10% to keep the WPGA running. But we didn't seem to need a lot of money. We had fantastic sponsorship. We all had sponsored cars and great deals, because it was predominantly a British tour. We got great press coverage. So it was just like a travelling circus. It was a lot of fun, and we just couldn't believe our luck that we were able to play golf and have a career in golf. Nobody really thought women could make a career out of golf. They kind of got the tournament thing, but there were no real club pros and people working in golf, directors of golf. That was pretty much a male domain. So I don't think really even my mother really understood what I did for a living. It was very much an amateur game, and I don't think any of us who turned pro in those early days were terribly popular. People that we thought were our friends were no longer our friends, and for a while there we were not welcome back. Not that there was any point coming back, because once you've lost your amateur status and there's no pro tour, you have to stay in America. My dad ran his own business, and he was a real workaholic, and his doctor told him unless he got a hobby, he probably was going to die fairly young. So that packed him off to the local golf course. I was about 12 at the time, and that was pretty much as young as you could be to start playing golf. You couldn't start much before that. I caddied for him, and that got a bit old. I wanted to have a go. I kept getting a club out and having a swing. So he bought me a 7-iron and a course of lessons at the local club, Bearsted in Kent. And we had a most fantastic teaching pro there, a guy called Don Macy. And there were only 4 juniors at the club at that time. This is in the 60s, and 3 of us turned professional. Then my dad's playing partner, who was a guy called Solly Joel, who was quite possibly the worst golfer I've ever seen. He was a buyer for Brook Bond, and he would go regularly to America on buying trips. And this one time he came back with a women's golf magazine all about the LPGA Tour, and that was it for me. That's all I ever wanted to do. I wanted to turn pro and play golf in America. My parents were really keen for me to get a proper job, and I went to study physiotherapy in St Mary's in Paddington. And then of course going to America was considered something only wealthy people did. But as luck would have it, Freddie Laker started the first ever low-cost airline. I remember flying to LA for £80, and it was £85 if you wanted a meal or £80 if you took your own sandwiches. So really, because that travel opportunity opened up, it made it possible for me to embark on a career in America. It was frowned upon. I mean, in the 70s, nice girls didn't play golf for money. When you're 18 or 19 years old, when somebody tells you you can't do something, well, that's it, isn't it? You just want to do it even more. The three of us were pretty close, Jenny, Lynn Howard and myself, Jenny Lee Smith. We got out there and we dug in, and the Americans treated us really well. We were really welcome. It was unusual for them at that time to have overseas players, quite a different picture now. So yeah, they would laugh at how white our legs were when we wore shorts and all that sort of thing. And they made us feel very welcome. Having been really a struggling pro on the WPGA tour, of course I came back and then I realised actually how much I had improved. So I was fortunate enough to win 3 tournaments in the first season, and I was the first player to break 70 on tour. Then I was also the first player to win £1,000, and I think to win that £1,000 I had to win 3 events and come second in 4. My early years were my best years. As the tour developed and we got better and better players, I was drawn with Laura Davis towards the end of my playing career, and when I saw her play I thought it might be time to get myself a day job. We all looked after each other, you know, we all travelled around together, we had caravans, we'd circle the wagons, and golf clubs would let us park in their car parks. I went to speak at a dinner and amazed the members by saying, the last time I was here I slept in your car park. The biggest change over the years has been all the different nationalities now. When we started, I can remember mainly British players. You had to be very wealthy to play golf on the continent, so we didn't get a lot of those. And we had one girl from Sweden. Well, none of us thought they played golf in Sweden in 1979. We found out a few years later that they most definitely did. But I think that's the thing, it's got a truly international feel. The players play great, they look great, they're articulate, they're all just a credit to the game. I just marvel at the players, I really do. I mean, the standard is fantastic, and it's just so great that they have so many tournaments to play in now. We all have to earn money and pay our mortgages, but the most important thing for pro golfers is they have a lot of events and a lot of playing opportunities. And actually we did have that in the early days, and I think the players now on the LET are having that, and they really deserve it. I'm happy to have been a founder member of what is now just such a fantastic setup. And I think really the thing I'm most proud about is that I've managed to work in golf all my life. Certainly when I first turned professional, that wasn't viable at all. Everybody told you couldn't play golf for a living, there weren't going to be any tournaments, you certainly couldn't be a club pro, you couldn't be a national coach, and all that is possible now. And I think, you know, it's not just the playing opportunities, the players that have gone on to get jobs at clubs, they've opened a whole new avenue where the sky's the limit for women in golf. There are so many funny things that happen because, of course, it was much more relaxed than it is today, and probably most of the stories would need to be censored. But needless to say, we all had a lot of fun, and particularly in the events where we went to Northern Ireland and we were sponsored by Gilbey's Gin and encouraged to try the product and to support the product. So we did have some pretty outrageous parties when we were in Northern Ireland. We've all got some good memories, but we've signed the Non-Disclosure Act now, so you're not going to get too much out of me. Strangely enough, I think I probably would have stayed in America a bit longer. I think I was so glad to get home, and I had success very quickly, that I was seduced by the comfort of being home, and it was a wonderful time. And I think, you know, I do admire players in the past who've stayed out and stuck it out. It would have made me a better player. I probably would have had a longer playing career. But on the whole, I think I got a pretty good life out of it, so I'm happy.